Hi everyone, welcome. This week you'll learn how to create this project here. Drawing from a reference photo can seem daunting, but using simple contour lines, a reference photo can actually make the position and activity of your character easier to draw. The key is keeping it simple. Our imaginations are amazing. I really love combining what's real with what isn't with my artwork to tell a meaningful story. It feels a little like magic, combining photos that I love to take with illustration. The possibilities are truly endless. I also love to use photos taken by so many talented photographers who share their photos for free online. That's what we're going to be doing today. I've linked the exact photos I used for my project in the description below. It's also super fun to pose for yourself. Give it a try sometime. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. Let's start with the plus sign in the upper right hand corner and let's create a custom canvas that is 12 inches by 12 inches. A square is perfect for social media like Instagram. Then I'll tap the wrench in the upper left corner, hit insert photo, and then go get the photo that I've already downloaded from my photo repository website online, which is Pexels. This is optional. You can select the S tool in the upper left-hand corner and then select freehand down below and draw a selection. I like to remove the background as much as I can just so that I can focus on exactly what it is that I'm drawing. Swipe 3 fingers, hit cut and paste, and then that removes the background in your layers panel, and turn that off. In sketching, in the brush library, select the 6B pencil and make that dark. Now let's begin a contour drawing of her face only and her neck. We're not going to include many details, and I'm going to add her hair later because I would prefer my character to have long hair for the idea that I have. I'm really using the bone that is right by her eye as a guide as to where I'm placing the eyebrow and her eye. Then her nose, I'm going to keep it very simple. It's just going to be the suggestion of the curve and then her 2 air holes. The lips, even though her mouth is slightly open, I'm going to have mine closed. For the palette, I'm just keeping it very rounded. It's a little bit different than what I'm seeing, and I'm not going to include that extra brush that she has on it. And again, her finger is just a suggestion in the opening. Now, the more challenging part is the hand, at least for me, and I hope that you have an easier time with it. But they're not easy, so be really patient with yourself and try to distill the shapes in their absolute simplest forms. You don't need all of the little ridges. In fact, you don't even need to add the nails. Just keep it as basic as you possibly can, trying to interpret just the overall, gesture of this character holding a brush if you are using the same reference photo as I am. I'm going to move her palette with the S tool, again using the freehand down below, and then I can move that using the arrow and just to adjust the angle a little bit. Delete your reference photo layers and drop the opacity of your sketch, and we'll start inking next. Next, I'll bring my second reference photo in just like I did my first one, and I'm going to adjust the colors on this photo, and you can see I can move it when it just comes in. I'm just moving it to the side, and I'm going to just change the hue and the saturation, and I'm just going through and deciding, okay, which one do I love the best? And really this is just personal preference, whichever colors really sing for you. Next, select the studio pen under inking in the brush library. I'm going to pick a little bit of this pink of my photo, and I'm going to add a skin tone color on top of it and drop the opacity. And in this way, I get a little bit of that pink from my reference photo in the skin tone. And then I'll tap that and add it to my palette. I like to keep all of the parts on different layers, so this base layer of her face will be on its own layer, and then I'll add the neck on its own layer, keeping it really simple, just using white for her eyes and then a little bit darker skin tone for just that curve of her nose, and a little bit darker for her nostrils. I'll probably make that even darker later on. which is why I like to use different layers so that I can make those changes really easily. And here for the eyes, these are just the working color for now, and just mainly it's all about the positioning at this stage, and we can always change colors and change even the positioning using the S and the Move tool later if we need to. With the lips, I like to have them each, the top and the lower lip, on 2 different layers, and I like my top lip to be darker than my bottom lip, and it isn't a rule, it's just my own personal preference. I'm going to create a clipping mask, so you just tap on that particular layer and hit clipping mask, and this will keep your drawing within the confines of that neck. For the hand, I'm just going to include it with the arm, and I'm going to close all of the shapes, and I'm just doing a base layer of the one color, the same color as her face, and then I'll add a little bit darker for the line work, and again I'm going to keep this really simple. For her brush, draw a line and then hold it for a moment so it snaps straight into place. Next, select a little bit darker color. I'm using the same color that I used the shadow of the neck to draw the lines. Less is more when it comes to the details of the hands. I made the background dark so that you can see how I'm just going to be using my reference photo again, just to get a sense of where the clothes that she's wearing, where the boundaries are. Again, I'm not doing in the details of the shirt, I'm just going to create a very simple gown. Once I fill that in and create my palette, then I'm ready to move my reference photo above the gown layer and hit clipping mask by selecting that layer and just tap that. And then you can use the Move tool, and notice I have it selected on uniform down below to adjust that photo. And here I'm just positioning it in a way that is pleasing for me. Then I'll select pink and then change the color of the gown with the pink that matches the photo. Next is her hair, and I've just selected a working color. All the colors, because they're on different layers, can be changed, but this one is just a very darker version of the pink that she's wearing. So here I'm just smoothing out the lines. Instead of making corrections by erasing, you can use your Move tool above and your Warp tool below to adjust any of your curves. And here I'm just coloring in her fingernails again, just using the same color that I used for the lines. And her eyebrows are just very simple, and these are the same color as her hair. For the eyelashes, I'm going to use a solid line, but I'll use just regular eyelashes so I can get the direction, and then fill that in just so that it's a little more pronounced and it makes her eyes look deeper. So this is just a guide, and then you can fill in with the thickness of the line that you want. Here I'm changing the eye color, but I'm also adding some darker values and then a little bit lighter value as well, and I'm using my photo reference to get that color, just to create variation in her eyes and just to make them look a little bit more alive. And a white little glimmer always does that, so I do recommend using a little bit of white. Okay, so now the most challenging part is over, and now I'm just creating the story. So I'm setting the scene, and what I see in my imagination is this figure, and she's creating her world as she sees it. For the shoes, I'm just creating something that looks like a little ballet slipper, and I'm just going to duplicate that layer so that I can create her second shoe easily, and then move it into place so it looks a little more natural. I'm just using a little bit of green on its own layer to create a shadow for her, and you can notice too that I changed the background of the whole thing, and I just used a color that was in the flowers, one of the blues in there, and now I'm just adjusting the shapes on the planet. And now I'm just adding some paint splotches to the palette. I created this star stamp quite a while ago, so I'm just going to tap some stars, but you can draw in some stars and place them around your illustration. And then these are the fun details, right? The little planets that I'm going to create more depth. I see my character as a moon goddess, and so I like to include divine feminine symbols just to tell more of that story. So all of the details now are personal symbols for me. So what are your symbols? For me, the rainbow represents the spirit transcending to higher levels of consciousness. A bluebird represents joy and happiness, two qualities that I think are essential for our world, especially with our creativity. Feel free to change the colors, of your different layers. I sort of felt like blue seemed better with the background, and I'll even change the background again. All of these little drawings that you're seeing are part of my doodle repertoire, and this is what I like to sketch when I'm just watching TV or just relaxing. And if you're interested in expanding the possibilities with your doodles, or if you'd like to learn more about how to create characters using contour drawing, I offer these classes on Skillshare, and I hope to see you there. And I hope these illustrations inspire you to use photos from Pexels or Unsplash or some other online photo repository to create some fun artworks. Thanks again for watching. Thank you for your attention, and happy creating, everyone. Have a great week.